Have you ever accidentally run out of space in your journal and needed an extra page? Or did you ever have some information that you wanted to see and reference regardless of where you were in your journal? Or maybe you wanted to make a Dutch door layout, but the idea of taking scissors to your journal is just a little too daunting. Well, this is where tip-ins can help. Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another video. Today we're looking at tip-ins, what they are, how they're made, and some ideas of what you can use them for. As mentioned, today's video is sponsored by my patrons, with our topic in particular having been selected by Team Moments That Matter. If you wanted more information regarding my Patreon perks, there's a link in the description box below, but without further ado, let's get into it. A tip-in is a piece of paper or card that is attached into your journal along one edge so that it can be turned from one side to the other. This could be something like a piece of dot grid paper, or a piece of decorative paper or card, a photograph, or any other flat object. Tip-ins can be attached in a variety of places in your journal and flip in whichever direction you like. The most common ones will be horizontally and vertically, but depending on your layout, you can totally have a diagonal tip-in too. When thinking about where you might attach a tip-in, common places include the inside cover of your journal, for example when adding a flip-out key or grid spacing guide, at the spine edge of your journal, for instance when you want to add an additional page, or just on any page of your journal, like the little examples we have here. When it comes to making a tip-in, there are some considerations you'll want to make just to ensure that your tip-in functions as you want it to. First and foremost, what is the purpose of the tip-in? As we'll look at in a bit, there's a good range of ways that a tip-in can be used, whether that be for function, or decoration, or for memory keeping, and knowing how you want to use it is going to affect how you'll be making it, mainly in terms of what the tip-in is made from and how the tip-in is attached. One of the more common tip-ins for a bullet journal will be made of dot grid paper. This can be sourced from either one of the pages in the back of your journal, or you might want to use an offcut from a Dutch door you've made previously, or you might have a dot grid notepad like this one from Archer and Olive. For these types of tip-ins, you just measure up the space you want your tip-in to fit or cover and cut it to size. Make sure to account for the fact that some of the tip-in piece is going to be used or covered when you attach the tip-in to your journal. For instance, if you know that you want the writing space of your tip-in to be 8 squares across, you'll probably want to cut your tip-in to be at least 9 squares across, just so that you have space for that attachment. As mentioned previously, you can have your tip-in made of other materials too, so decorative paper or card, photographs and memorabilia, and while you may need to do some trimming down of this to put it in your journal, typically the bigger consideration for these tip-ins is how you're going to attach them. When it comes to attaching a tip-in into your journal, the most common way is with washi tape or another sticky tape. All you have to do is run tape along the edge of the tip-in that you want attached, having one half of the tape also attached to the place in your journal that you want it. What can be good to do is first attach the tape to the tip-in and then trim any excess from the non-sticking edges, just as having any tape hanging over those edges will make opening your tip-in difficult. You then just line the tip-in up where you want it and stick it down. What I typically also like to do is attach more tape on the other side of the tip-in along the sticking edge, just to make sure it's as secure as possible. While I've done this first one here with washi tape, depending on what you're tipping in, you may want to use clear sticky tape, in particular for things like memory keeping items, where you don't want the object to be obstructed by an opaque tape. To best preserve your memory keeping items, do make sure that you're using an acid-free tape as well, just so the tape doesn't make your tip-in deteriorate over time. Another way to attach a tip-in is with double-sided tape, and this technique technically has two variations itself, which I'm going to call the fold over and the fold under methods. For the fold over method, this involves running a line of double-sided tape down the back of the tip-in and securing it to your journal. To open the tip-in, you then just fold it over that sticking edge. This will make a visible crease in your tip-in, which may or may not be favourable for everyone. The fold under method is similar, but requires a little bit more forethought. For this one, you need to cut the tip-in a bit wider than you actually want it to be when it's in your journal. You then fold the sticking edge under the tip-in and put glue along the outer side of this. Then you secure the tip-in into your journal just as we did the last one. The The nice part about this method is that you won't end up with that fold line on the front of your tip-in, but a possible issue is that if you're using thicker paper, like the 160 GSM paper that I have here, this can mean you might experience some unevenness in that region of the page when you flip over to the next one. My personal preference for sticking in tip-ins would be the washi tape, but all of the ones we've discussed here can work and will be suitable for different scenarios. Before we get into looking at our ideas of how you can use tip-ins, question of the day for you: do you use tip-ins in your journal already? If you do, how do you use them? And if you don't, how do you think you might after this video? One of the most useful ways to use a tip-in is as a way to add extra pages to your journal. When I set up for the next month in my journal, as I typically do this a little early so I can film for you guys, I effectively have to guess how many more pages I'm going to be needing for my current month. Most of the time I guess right, but every so often I don't leave myself quite enough space to finish out the month before the pages that I've got set up for the next one. A tip-in can be used to give myself the extra space that I need. For this, you just take a full page of dot grid paper, again, mine comes from the Archer and Olive notepad, and then attach this into the middle of an existing spread, making sure to secure it from both sides. Following this idea, you can also use a tip-in to make a Dutch door. I know that some people get a little bit nervous about taking scissors to their journal, so a tip-in can be a good way to make these without running the risk of cutting something that you shouldn't. You can see for the Dutch door that I'm setting up here, this one would typically have been made by cutting away the top half of a page, which can sometimes be either difficult to do in a way that looks neat, or difficult to make sure that you don't end up cutting too close to the binding of your journal. As the tip-in is just you sticking in an extra piece of paper, this can be a good solution. Another way that tip-ins can be used is as removable trackers. You can see that for my teacher setup here, I wanted to have a year at a glance that I can move into my next journal. By tipping this into the page on the right, I can easily access the space underneath this to write notes, and then once I've finished using this journal, I can remove the tracker and tip it into my next journal. One of the ways to use tip-ins that we've looked at previously are for materials that you might want to be able to easily reference from any page in your journal. These could be things like a journal key, a color code reference, a grid spacing guide, an index, or really anything that you want. By tipping these into the front or back cover of your journal, they will be easy to reference regardless of what page you are on. Another similar way that you can use tip-ins is for trackers that you might otherwise forget to fill in. One of the biggest reasons that people struggle with using their habit trackers is that they don't ever flip back and look at them. This goes for yearly trackers in particular. If you set up your tracker on a tip-in that you can easily flip out and see from your weekly or daily log, this might help keep you motivated to actually fill it in. As we talked about before, tip-ins can also be used for memory keeping. You can tip in things like Polaroids or photographs into your journal, so that underneath this you can do some journaling about when that photo was taken and any memories from the event that it captures. You might also want to tip in things like double-sided ephemera, so things like tickets or flyers that you want to be able to see the back of. Rather than just sticking this onto the page of your journal, tipping it in means that you'll be able to flip it back and forth and thus see both sides. People have also previously tipped in things like vellum pieces and cardstock to use as decoration for their journal setups, typically at the start of a new month. The tip-in that we have here is one of the papers from the Archer and Olive December subscription box, which I'm tipping in to make a decorative cover page. Tip-ins can also be used as a way to hide a section of a page. This may be for sensitive information or something that you don't want people to see at a glance. Or a fun way to use this would be in setting up something like an advent calendar, where tip-ins are used as little doors for the advent tasks, prompts, or whatever else is behind them. Another great way to use a tip-in is just for extra space. Say that you've set up some kind of tracker or log in your journal, thinking that one spread would be enough, and it turns out that you actually need some more room. While you can of course tip in a full extra page like we had in our first idea, where you attach the page at the very middle of the spread, you can of course attach this to either the side or the bottom of one of the pages. This just gives you more room to log more things. Of course, these are just some ideas of the ways that tip-ins are used, and make sure to check out the comments from other viewers to see how they're using tip-ins in their journals. Thank you again to my patrons for effectively sponsoring this video, and as always team, thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more on planning, productivity, and personal development. Until next time, bye!